Welcome back, everyone. Again, I'm David Hamilton, founder and chairman of America's Future Series, and I'm really honored again to have Maria Hedden join us again for a very interesting conversation that's coming up. She's got Anirban Chakraborty with her. She's going to have Robert Frederick. They're going to have a fascinating conversation, and I want to stay out of their hair. I'm going to let them take it over. So, Maria, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your support, and thank you for leading these conversations.
David. So it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm Maria Hedden, the Chief Operating Officer at COMTECH. We're thrilled to be a title sponsor for today's event. COMTECH is undergoing a transformational change as a company. We are embarked on a journey of solving customer challenges at the core of everything we do as a business. We are doing this to connect the unconnected, bridge the digital divide, and empower people by providing access to data and insight in new and unprecedented ways. Our unique ability to understand and synthesize our customers' needs is translating into innovative technologies and services that will help change the global technology landscape and improve lives through technology. Today, we are an agile global company, and we are relentless in our pursuit to solve customers' toughest challenges every day. We have a great discussion lined up, and I'm thrilled to introduce our two guests here with me today. First of all, I want to introduce Robert Frederick. So Robert is here with us. He's the CEO, president, and founder of Sirqul. Sirqul is an IoT platform with over 80 modular services and over 400 applications, programming interfaces. It's called Ingredients, empowering companies and organizations to deploy IoT solutions in the cloud, on-premise, hybrid, and at the edge. Sirqul is also Sirqul, sorry. COMTECH's first publicly announced Evoke technology partner. Robert is an MIT graduate, Media Lab, and MIT Technology Review Magazine TR100 award winner. He is the author of 41 issued patents. A few of Robert's career highlights include leading Amazon's mobile commerce initiatives from 1999 to 2004, as well as being the technology co-founder of Amazon Web Services and AWS Marketplace. In addition to being a serial entrepreneur, Robert is also author and a music producer. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you.
Also here with me today is Anirban Chakraborty. Really excited about introducing him. He is our Chief Growth Officer. He's one of our first one here at COMTECH, just recently appointed in August of 2022. Previously served as our Senior Vice President of Strategy and Business Development for COMTECH Trusted Location Services. In his new role, Anirban is instrumental in our 5G and public safety strategies. Anirban has over 25 years of experience in the telecommunication industries across terrestrial and satellite technologies. Prior to joining COMTECH, he served in leadership positions in a plethora of enterprises ranging from technology startups, private equity firms, and publicly traded companies, including Tech Mahindra, Moonlight Capital, and UST Global. Anirban holds a bachelor's degree in electrical and electronics engineering. Welcome.
Thank you, Maria.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and get to some of the questions because I'm sure you'd like to hear a little more from Anirban and Robert. So Anirban, first to you. At the onset, let's start with the biggest disruption that we are experiencing today. How do you see the advent of 5G technology being heralded as the glue that we will enable the integration of emerging and disruptive technologies?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. We have seen generation of mobile networks going from 1G, 2G, 3G, but I see 5G not as a linear upgrade, but as a step change. It's not about just the increment in speed, not in the downlink speed, but it is also the question of latency. It's the ability to provide near real time, not just application, but user experiences. Secondly, I think the important thing with 5G is providing is up until now, till 4G, we used to have one network fits all, whether it's a consumer, whether it's an enterprise, whether it's a sensor or a device, it was a static network. I think 5G is breaking that. It's breaking that, cookie cutter approach and providing network that is amenable to the kind of applications or the type of consumer. The third is the evanescence, the ability to create a network or kill a network based on the traffic type, need, time of the day, you name it. 5G has this, I would say, elasticity and ability to come up and go down in a jiffy. But last, I think the biggest thing which we have seen, IoT has been in our life for, I would say, at least 7 to 10 years. And I think Robert will be able to, correct me if I'm quoting the number of years wrong, but we haven't seen IoT coming out and becoming in a ubiquitous fashion from the telco side for quite some time. But I think 5G will definitely give us that ability from the perspective of connecting a whole lot of networks because of the density 5G can support going forward. I mean, we have seen LTE-M, we have seen NB-IoT kind of creeping up their way through the 4G or LTE era, but I think 5G we will see disruption. And this enablance of, I think, IoT will provide connectivity, will provide, at the end of the day, business applications, at the end of the day, more automation, which will come from the periphery to the core of for an enterprise. That's the, I would say, 2 cents of that question, Maria.
Thanks, Anirban. It sounds pretty exciting as to how we're conveying both of these technologies into a single space.
Yeah.
So pretty exciting. So Robert, obviously, we're hearing more and more about IoT as Anirban mentioned, and now as 5G proliferates, and in fact, 5G requires that a massive of IoT systems can serve up to 1 million connections per square kilometer. That it's a big jump and certainly opens a lot of possibilities. Robert, how do you see the growth of this ecosystem, and will it change the IoT ecosystem or even disrupt the business models?
So for me, first of all, thank you for the question. As Anirban mentioned earlier, it's a step change for sure. Bluetooth, I'll be honest with you, when I've been involved with IoT and Bluetooth, I would say, ever since the mid-90s. So I remember getting into what now is being called IoT. Into discussions about that back in the mid-90s. But with that said, devices are becoming ubiquitous. If you need to be able to basically put a lot of these devices in a dense location, right? Think of a stadium, think of airports, think of train stations, any shopping malls. Everyone is carrying on them, and I would love for people to sort of count them. But just imagine how many radios are actually being carried on them right now. And to be able to have all of those devices connect through a network and through an infrastructure at the scale of what is coming, it's just astronomical compared to the way that it was, even 3 years ago, 4 years ago with 4G. It was a big deal because it was, in a phone. Now it's in 14 different devices that are inside of your home that are then communicating with 5G or with other sort of mesh networks that are then connected to, the actual infrastructure through 5G. And I just think it's going to change the world in such a way that there's just going to be so many different ways to have information gathered and sent over the network. And that includes multiple verticals, multiple situations. And already, I know that it's impacting, as we've heard from others earlier today, the idea of defense as well.
Yourself, Robert, these massive deployments of sensors and/or IoT devices will happen and most likely be in geographically dispersed locations across the globe for both commercial and defense applications, as you mentioned. It does bring the risk of security. So how do we protect ourselves in this new age of technology?
Well, the very first step is for every device that's actually deployed, that you have to basically have an identifier, and it needs to be able to communicate back. It needs to also be coded or programmed in such a way that it's defensive in nature. It's communicating when it's been, let's say, accessed, moved, modified, shaken, disturbed, any kind of sensor that can be added into these particular devices to discuss or share changes to the environment are important. Identity and security are some of the top things that we as device manufacturers, as well as developers that are writing software for these devices, have to pay attention to. And it's just a matter of being able to access remotely, flip a switch, activate, deactivate, provisioning in such a way that various features can be turned on or off depending upon the state. And it's definitely something that we have been discussing a little bit with COMTECH as well. But from a Sirqul point of view and from my company's point of view, security is first, especially if you're deploying these particular assets in numerous geographic locations. Having that monitoring system in place is absolutely necessary. And you can't just put out a sensor, you can't put out a device, you can't just depend and hope that people are not going to activate or modify or access. It's not a question of if, it's more like a question of when. And you just need to make sure that that is planned for. It's you've basically put in the right sort of security so that bad things cannot happen for you or for your customer or for just users.
Perspective. Thank you for that, Robert. So Anirban, IoT, as far as this geographically dispersed and applications will be decentralized, what do you see in an adaptation of decentralized ledgers and technologies like blockchain?
Yeah, I think I'll try to take a segue from what Robert just explained. Security obviously is one thing, and I think blockchain or any distributed ledger technologies is poised even to contribute towards IoT security, just because of the fact that it is immutable, the fact that it is cryptographically secured, and the fact that it is permissioned, or even for permissionless networks, it is an optimum technology from an IoT standpoint. So security to me from a blockchain perspective is the largest contribution, and I can see this thing coming in not just for commercial but also even for defense. For example, in the US government itself, there are so many defense contractors who are in the process of procurement, or let's say you look at the end-to-end supply chain from a DoD perspective, there are a lot of companies who are participating in it. In terms of tracking, in terms of making sure that there is a trust factor between peers. I think blockchain plays an important role going forward. Then the aspect of creating efficiencies, I think blockchain does have its own purpose. I would say when enterprise talk about automation, they usually talk about automating the tasks which are at the periphery, tasks which are mundane, things like testing, things like procurement. People have deployed things like robotic process automation, which in my opinion only contribute to a certain degree on the periphery of the overall operation. But the moment you start deploying smart contracts, I think the automation effect starts to move towards the core of the enterprise in its operation, and creates whole lot of efficiencies and values. And last but not the least, trying to tie it back to the first question you asked, Maria, about 5G. 5G by itself is an open network. Excuse me. It talks about open interfaces. It talks about leaving the whole ability of being proprietary. Now that also invites security concern, and I think from a blockchain perspective, it presents itself a very useful use case even for 5G network, be it commercially deployed be it private networks or be it even the open networks which the Department of Defense or even DARPA is talking about. So I think that's something which everybody needs to look at it. I think blockchain has been in our lives for a number of years now, and there has been bits and pieces of deployment, mostly around supply chains, and in some cases also in terms of real estate and such. Basically to measure only provenance. But I think if we start to adapt blockchain going forward into the enterprise operation, I think it's going to yield a definitive result moving forward.
Great perspective. So let's try to address one of these society challenges that becomes even more evident during the pandemic: the uneven distribution of information and communication technologies across the society, or what we call the digital divide. On one hand, we're seeing the mobile communication at its 5th generation. However, on the other hand, we still have challenges in hand. Anirban, how do we see a collective approach towards handling this digital divide?
No, I think it's a problem for I think the society, and I think everybody needs to contribute. But I think at the base level, if we start looking at a digital divide, it is the inability for a human or a set of people within a society to access certain resources. But the first step there is the ability to connect. And I think besides the government, besides the individual citizen or the societies or municipalities, it comes to the technology providers. I think we are seeing the first wave. We saw the first wave when 5G came in with fixed wireless access. I think that has been an I would say a boon. 4G LTE tried to do fixed wireless access, but I think with 5G, with the new spectrum, the efficient radio, the massive MIMO, we as in, I would say the whole ecosystem is noticing a huge amount of growth in the fixed wireless access, which will definitely start connecting more people. So that I think is the first phase, which has already begun. I think in the second phase, what needs to happen is, and there are areas there which we as in telecom sector or in the satellite sector are noticing. I mean, last week, COMTECH was participating in Mobile World Congress, and we saw a huge amount of interaction between the satellite guys and the terrestrial or the mobile network operator guys. I think 3GPP itself is pushing this agenda, which they call 5G NTN or 5G non-terrestrial networks. It has got people excited. It has got people excited both from the a terrestrial mobile network side, satellite side, and it's not just about the ability to interconnect or interplay with one common specification or standards, but it is also about providing an end-to-end connectivity. So I think areas in the globe, through the globe, which are underserved or unserved, I think they now have a very a strong value proposition trying to bridge 5G, whether it is from constellations such as LEOs or MEOs, or even from places like HAPS. We first saw the usage of HAPS in Saudi Arabia last year. So that was a big, I would say, a jump towards bridging this digital divide. So that's step one. And I think step two would be now to bring in the other ecosystem players such as education, such as healthcare, and trying to give them the opportunity to connect into this open API defined ecosystem to start providing services on the fly. So that I think we are seeing. It will grow up, and the industry is already, I mean, whether we look at one or all of the analysts, I think they are unanimously talking about the growth in this spectrum. So it's exciting times.
Sounds like it. Thank you, Anirban. So you mentioned a little bit about private networks of Anirban. One research estimated around 2,000 private networks by the end of 2022, and goes on to calculate the CAGR for network deployments separate of their value to be 65% over the next 5 years, reaching 39,000 installations by 2027. What is fueling this, and will this trend encompass both government and commercial areas?
Absolutely. I think this is a huge trend. I think we have seen enterprises having their private networks, but then, like we discussed earlier during this conversation, 5G does provide the flexibility, right? And I think the very nature of this from an openness perspective, the fact that it is no longer going to be a hard or a tangible network, I think people are marching towards the concept, and we inside COMTECH, within our innovation foundry Evoke, we call this network as a software. I think people are going to slowly change the way they subscribe from a network. It is no longer going to be the aspect of, hey, I just want a voice or a data or a text kind of a service. People are going to look for, hey, I want an API to do certain types of work. And that obviously will lead, to the fourth category of user, I must say, which is the developer community. This is something which a 5G network will eventually start to offer as we move from 5G to 5G advanced, or even to 6G by the time 2030 hits us. The interesting part here is, because of this ability, I think the enterprises are saying that, hey, we need to define a network that is customizable, that is custom to our own needs, whether you are an industry which is in oil and gas, or let's say a healthcare, or even educational institution, large college campuses. They have their separate needs in terms of, and COVID has taught us, right, that there could be a lot of things that could be done remotely, that could be done virtually. In fact, this whole session is virtual, right? So in order to create those value propositions, I think more and more industries are saying that, hey, I think we need a private 5G network. And to add a cherry on top, I think what the FCC also did, that they released the 3.5 gigahertz spectrum, which we call CBRS, or Citizen Broadband Radio Service, that is available for the enterprises, and it's not that exorbitantly expensive. COMTECH as physical and digital coexistence.
Anirban. So last question to you, Robert, is really, there's quite exciting comments about the physical digital coexistence. We spoke about 5G, IoT, the culmination of 5G and non-terrestrial networks, blockchain, and private networks. For the physical digital coexistence, or if I can use the term metaverse, how do we see the proliferation here? I mean, do we see the progression of a digital twin?
Oh, so thank you for the question. There's so many things that I would love to talk about, but I don't want to basically, say the exact same things as Anirban. But one of the key things here is, I believe in digital twinning. I can actually say that my career has been based upon the concept of a digital twin. It's kind of fun. It's part of the reason why the name of my company is Sirqul, because we're basically coming around to where I was hoping we would be, 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. That's a sci-fi person in me, I guess. But the key thing here is with devices, and I'm sorry to use a prop, but this is how small a little device is, a constellation device that we actually have, that we sell and we present and we physically place in physical locations. Those devices talk to each other using a patented communication protocol. They create their own private networks. They do location mapping of assets as well as devices that are in that particular space. They can do anonymous mapping for individuals who are carrying those particular devices, let's just say. This is all part of our patented sort of tech. And what we end up doing is we can use the position of the fact that you're carrying multiple radios, and we can trilaterate, I think that's X, Y, and Z coordinates, and position that individual at the right height and in the right location inside of a physical space. And thereby, if you allow me to continue a little bit, you can basically take the concept of a cookie that is online for a website, take for instance, into the physical world where you have an identity, you have an ID, you have a three-dimensional, if not two-dimensional, worst case, representation of where someone is standing. And you can put up a screen in that physical space. You can show an ad. You can show other people who, just like we're doing on this particular Zoom right now. And you can have people blend and bridge the divide between what is happening digitally and what is happening like physically at that location. Meaning I could be physically here and know that the actual salesperson is now ready for me at a store that is hundreds of miles away. I can literally have a person at home supporting people like an expert who are queuing up inside of an actual store and inside of a specific place, and physically direct them in ways that, as if I'm physically there, they could actually see an avatar, a 3D representation of me. I know that this may sound kind of crazy and a little futuristic, but we've done it. We actually have worked on projects which I cannot name, where we're doing positions of assets, both known as well as unknown, in multiple geographic locations on multiple continents. And we're able to basically determine the path, the dwell time, the movement profile of that person or that particular device, the asset, that tag that is actually being positioned. And it's all coming in because we're able to create digital twins and give operators that are remote a sense of what's happening in real time in other locations virtually. So digital twinning is not something that's coming in the future. It's already here. And by leveraging, devices like this little one here, right? It basically you can enable through a 5G network interactions between the devices, and then having those devices send information up, having the blockchain involved, meaning at the device through smart contracts, which we do have enabled as well. So you can basically make sure that and do almost like a form of gamification. So you can say, hey, I trust the information that this device is sending, and you should trust it as well, because I'm actually monitoring not just what I'm supposed to do, but also what my neighbors and my other devices are capable of doing. And that gives you operational intelligence at the dashboard level, at the NOC level, and you can create triggers and alerts and API calls outwards based upon thresholds that are basically set, such that the environment, the digital twin environment, or even the physical environments, adapts to the presence of those that are inside of that particular space. So if you give me, I need more than a half hour to an hour to talk about this, but as you can probably tell, I'm super excited about it. And I can't wait to work with COMTECH and COMTECH's customers to sort of bring this vision, to their customers as well as to our own.
Robert, it's, as you said, it's pretty exciting, all this new technology that we have and our abilities to do so much more with it than we have in the past. So I want to take this time to thank both Robert and Anirban for today and sharing their perspectives as far as some of the new technologies that are coming in this space. And just thank you for being here today. And I think we're going to take a short break. So thank you.
Thanks, Maria.
Thank you.
Thanks.